Hello everyone. Let me greet you once again with the traditional Chechen greeting. I wish you all freedom.
My story.
Today I want to talk a bit about the political crisis unfolding around the world, where the Russian Federation is at the center of the main problem, and how this is connected to all of us. Let's go back to the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, when the Chechens set a course for independence as provided for by international law and declared their own independent state. Then, the former Soviet Republic of Russia also established its own state, the Russian Federation. They did everything they could to hinder the Chechens, trying to annex them. They did not succeed. And finally, they openly invaded the Chechen state using military force. In other words, an attempt at colonizing an entire people began in the 20th century in the civilized world. Unfortunately, the entire civilized world, to one degree or another, ignored these events. The American president, Bill Clinton, made a statement to the Russians, urging them to resolve the problem with minimal bloodshed. It should be emphasized that the Chechens placed great hope in the support of the international community and clearly understood that we are just a small people, numbering only 1 million, that our state has neither military equipment nor factories for producing weapons, and that our state has nothing to oppose against the vast state of the Russian Federation. The Chechens were neither insane nor masochists to simply march toward their own destruction. The people clearly understood that they needed international support. And overall, the Chechens began their struggle because the democratic world proclaimed freedom and the right of every nation to self-determination. For some reason, the Russians referred to us as separatists, and the lack of truthful and accurate information reaching the screens of the global public only worsened the situation. The war began in December 1994 and ended in August 1996, when the Chechens, on their own, forced the Russians to sit down at the negotiating table and sign peace agreements. And all this time, you, the countries of the civilized world, never recognized our independence and statehood. Today we can see something similar as Russia has attacked Ukraine and some countries behave hypocritically, trying not to anger the Russians. Others are looking for their own benefit and advantage. Fortunately, in the case of Ukraine, the world has come to better understand what it is truly facing. But let's return to the Chechens who were successfully Islamized after the First Russo-Chechen War, largely thanks to the hypocritical behavior of the international community. Religious figures, who were also agents, convinced the Chechens that they were facing some kind of global conspiracy of infidels. Even today, this propaganda continues, through which Chechens are still being radicalized. Meanwhile, the international community today prefers to talk about the Russian puppet Kadyrov, who follows all Russian orders to the letter. Even Ukrainian media, who know Russian propaganda better than anyone else, keep presenting to their audience the narrative of Ramzan Kadyrov and the Chechens allegedly attacking Ukraine. It creates the impression that for the past 3 years, Ukraine, with the armed support of the entire international community, has been fighting against Kadyrov and the Chechens. Some Ukrainians are also interested in a supposed uprising in the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, which is currently occupied by the Russians. An uprising against the Russians, in order to somehow divert Russian military power away from themselves. And for some reason, the whole world believes that the Chechens should rise up. As if the Chechens actually have the ability to stage an uprising and stand up to the Russians on their own, just like before. Meanwhile, the rest of the civilized world will simply watch what happens, maintain mutually beneficial relations with the Russians, and sometimes even use the Chechens as bargaining chips. Guys, I want to assure you that all Chechens currently living in the Chechen Republic, which is temporarily occupied by the Russians, are completely under the control of the Russian system established there. You, the entire civilized world, helped make this happen. There can be no talk of any uprising whatsoever, especially against the backdrop of the world's hypocritical behavior. It's much more likely that today's Russian annexed Crimea would suddenly stage an uprising. I also want to add that the Islamists who have appeared among Chechens in Europe emerged. These numbers have already surpassed several tens of percent. The Chechens had their state taken away from them, and the majority of Chechens, because of their political views, were forced to leave their homeland and seek asylum in European countries. We do not have special services capable of countering the flow of radical propaganda and the entire network of international Islamic terrorism. Without the support of the competent authorities in the countries where we reside, solving this problem is not considered feasible. It would be good for us to understand that we are all on the same side, and that hypocrisy or ignoring the situation will not lead to anything good. If the Chechen issue continues to be overlooked or disregarded, and then the same is done with Ukraine, it will not lead to anything good. Let us all be truly more honest with each other. To contribute to injustice, ignore it, or support it will not lead to anything good. That's all for today. I want to say goodbye to you with a traditional Chechen farewell.
Mash oil.
Stay and remain free. Goodbye to everyone.